Music Club, welcome back to week 3. We are so excited you all are sticking with it, and I don't know, it's just an awesome club. So, we just wanted to this week talk about poetry, and poetry is a really, really important groundwork for songwriting. It's not something you have to do, but it's great practice, and it's great practice to understand what poetry is in order to kind of move into songwriting. So, we have this handy poetry ice cream cone, and we're going to start with our base, which is poetry. And poetry is a type of writing where words are arranged based on their meaning, their sound, and their rhythm to share ideas and feelings. So their meaning, their sound, and rhythm to share ideas and feelings. That's going to be the base of our ice cream cone. That's what poetry means. So next on the poetry ice cream cone, we have form. And form is the style of poem and the way it was written. There's lots of different styles of poems, and it can get pretty complicated, so we're not going to go too in depth with form. Next, we're going to talk about figurative language. That's the next ice cream on the ice cream cone, and that is phrases and figures of speech that mean something other than what the words actually say. We'll talk a little bit more about examples after we go through all the definitions. So next on our poetry ice cream cone, we have sound devices. These are tools used carefully in order to create sounds and mood within a poem. And then last, and in my opinion most importantly, is imagery. So imagery is describing something in a way that makes the reader feel they can see, hear, smell, taste, or feel it. And in my opinion, I think imagery is often used most in music as well. So this is a great time to practice. We're going to erase all these definitions and just do a couple quick examples. All right, so we have our board and we've erased it and put up some quick examples. So imagery, an example of imagery could be something like, the wind chilled me to the bone and my teeth chattered as my breath swirled in the air. So when the reader's reading that, when we're reading that, you could really feel that the wind was cold, chilled me to the bone, my teeth chattered as my breath swirled in the air. All those things we can imagine in feeling cold. So next, we're going to talk about sound devices. And an example of sound devices is the slippery, silly snake slithered and hissed. So in this sentence, it was carefully crafted to have all these different S sounds. The slippery, silly snake slithered and hissed. So that's a great example of sound devices. Figurative language, this is a really cool example. And remember, it's conveying something that doesn't actually mean what's written. So my dad says that cell phones cost an arm and a leg. He's going to explode when he sees this cracked screen. So we all know that cell phones don't really cost an arm and a leg. And I don't think that the person's dad is going to explode when he sees the cracked screen, but we can understand what it means, and it's written in a way that that has that figurative language. So these are some really great examples of imagery, sound devices, figurative language. And next, we're going to talk about our activity and some rhyme sequences. All right, so for the activity this week, we're going to be doing a little bit of poetry writing. And poetry can be really complex, but also can be made really simple. And my hope is that we can make something pretty simple this week. So we're going to be writing something called a quatrain poem. And I know that sounds complicated, but let's not focus on the word. Let's just think of what it means. So a quatrain poem is 4-line verses that usually rhyme. So just 4 lines. If a poem has 4 lines, then it's a quatrain poem. And sometimes a quatrain can be part of a poem, so 4 lines is a quatrain. Okay, so in order to write one, we need to understand rhyming schemes. And what is a rhyme scheme? The rhyming patterns in poetry. They tell us which lines rhyme. And we can really easily look at this by looking at the very last word of each line. All right, so we are going to look at 2 common rhyme scheme patterns. And on my board, I only have one. I only had enough room to write one, so I'll erase this after we're finished talking about it. So for our first rhyme scheme, we are going to be talking about AABB. So what does an AABB rhyme scheme do? So in this rhyme scheme, the first two lines rhyme with each other. So these two lines rhyme with each other, the AA rhyme with each other, and then the next two lines rhyme with each other, but not with the first two. So if you look at it, the two A lines rhyme with each other, and the two B lines rhyme with each other. But the two B lines are not going to rhyme with these two A's. So let's look at an example. I'm going to see if I can move over a bit. I guess maybe better. So an example of this is, upon a nice mid-spring day, let's take a look at nature's way. Breathe the scent of nice fresh air, feel the breeze within your hair. So in the first two lines, day and way rhyme with each other, and that's going to be our two A's. And the next two lines, air and hair rhyme with each other, and that's going to be our two B's. So AA, BB. So AA, BB. And you can really tell by just looking at the last words of the lines and how they rhyme. So let's look at one other rhyme sequence or rhyme scheme, and yeah, look at it from there. All right, so for our last rhyme scheme pattern that we're going to be talking about today is AB, AB. So as we learned before with AABB, our A's are going to rhyme and our B's are going to rhyme. So the lines alternate, every other line rhyming. Line 1, so this is line 1, is going to line with line 3. So this is line 3. And then lines 2 and lines 4 are going to rhyme. So let's look at a quick example and see if we can kind of make sense of this. So I put the A, B, and AB next to each line, so it would be a little bit easier to tell. And then I also underlined the A's and squared the B's. So for the example, the coolness of the night refreshes my skin. The stars shine so bright, causing me to grin. So when we look at line A, night rhymes with the third line, line A, bright. And then the two B lines also rhyme. So night and bright, and skin and grin. So hopefully you can see the difference between an AA and a BB, and an AB and an AB. There are other rhyme scheme patterns, but for this activity, I thought it would be easier just to focus on these two and practice. Okay, so for the activity this week, we're going to write a quatrain. So remember, the quatrain is just 4 lines, and we're going to choose between two different rhyme schemes, whether it's an AB or an AABB. This is something that is going to take some practice, and if you're not comfortable or don't feel ready to write these, that's totally okay. But what you can do is listen to some of your favorite songs and see if you can identify the rhyming schemes that they use. Sometimes in songs, in the way that songwriters write them, there's a whole different variety of different rhyme schemes, but it's really neat to be able to pick some of those out and practice them on your own. So if you feel comfortable, in your journal, your music journal, write 4 lines, which is called a quatrain, and we're going to write in an AB rhyme scheme, or we're going to write an AABB rhyme scheme. And if you're not comfortable with either of those, just pick out some cool rhyme schemes or identify some rhyme schemes in some of the music that you enjoy. We can't wait to see you. Stick around for Claire's lesson with the ukulele. All right. Bye, everybody.
Hi Music Club, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about chords, specifically 2 chords that we're going to learn today. So grab your ukulele and make sure it's in tune. If you need a quick refresher, you can look back at our previous video that talks about how to tune a ukulele. You should tune it before you play it so that you know that it's in tune. Remember, all you have to do is twist the knobs. You can use the link in the description of the previous video for a tuner from the internet. You can use an app with your parents' permission that you've downloaded, or you can just use a piano. So mine is already tuned. Another reminder that we hold our ukulele like this. So in our left hand, we hold the neck, And with our right hand, we strum. Okay. Another quick reminder just of what string is which, because that's going to be really important when we start to talk about chords and where we put our fingers. So from the one that's closest to me to the one that's closest to the floor, I'm going to start here. This string is a G. The next string here is a C. And then the third string is an E. And then the fourth string is an A. There you go. So G, C, E, A. All right. So the next thing we're going to learn is the fingers. So the fingers are important because we need to number our fingers so we know where they go. When I'm talking about 1 through 4, I'm talking about these fingers, 1 through 4. So your pointer finger is going to be finger number 1. Your middle finger is finger number 2. Fourth finger is finger number 3. And your pinky is finger number 4. Your thumb doesn't really count. You just kind of use it to balance the ukulele with your thumb. Other stringed instruments, you do actually use your thumb, like in a guitar sometimes, but usually in the ukulele, you don't need to because there's only 4 strings and the neck is quite slim. So we're just going to be using these 4 with the thumb balancing the back. Okay, so the 2 chords we're going to learn today are the C chord and the F chord, and they are probably the 2 most easy chords. So remember, we're going to start with these fingers, and actually we're going to start with our C chord. And the C chord is made by placing either your second or your third finger on the A string. Okay? And actually we're going to back up a second. So remember when I talked about the parts of the ukulele, I talked about these little lines here. So they're called frets. And each fret, depending on where you press on the fret, it makes a different note. Okay? So actually, when we make a chord, we're going to be talking about which string, then we're going to talk about which fret and which finger. So back again to the C chord. I'm holding my ukulele in my arms like this. I'm going to take either my second or my third finger. I prefer the third finger. You can use the second finger. And I'm going to place it right above the third fret. So fret 1, fret 2, fret 3. Fret 1, fret 2, fret 3. And I'm going to hold it down and balance my thumb in the back. And I'm going to play. That is a C. So to play a C chord, you have to strum all 4. So I'm going to keep holding my finger. I'll play it the way I like it though, with my third finger. There's my C chord. And the reason I like to play it with my third finger instead of my second is because often the chord that comes next is the C chord. And it's really easy to transition to my C chord if I have my third finger instead of my second. But you can decide what's comfortable for you. So, C. Remember, count your frets. 1, 2, 3. Place your finger right above the fret. And strum. That is a C. Okay, next is the F chord, and it involves these 2 fingers, your first and your second finger. So, which strings do they go on? We're mainly going to be using this first string and the third string, first and third. So the way I like to start is with my first finger. I place it on the third string, right above the first fret, and I hold it down. And then I take my second finger and I stretch it all the way to our G string, but on the second fret. Okay, let's start again. So it involves the first and second fret with the first and second fingers on the G and the E chord, G and the E string. So my first finger I'm going to put it on the E string right above the first fret, and my second finger is going to go on the G string right above the second fret. And then I'm going to play my chord, and that's your F chord. So now we have two chords. We have our C chord and our F chord. And so if you go slowly, you can move from your second finger from the C chord, and then you slide this one up one fret, and then stretch. So maybe don't slide as much. So you got your C, and then you gotta move this one across, and F. So you guys just practice getting used to moving between the two. And like I said before, I often use this finger, this third finger on my C chord instead, because I can just easily move to an F. But you don't have to do that. You can just do it with your third or second finger. Okay, so those are the two chords we're going to learn. Next time we are going to focus on the G chord and the D chord. And then maybe we'll throw in as a bonus the E chord. So we'll have eventually 5 chords that we can work from. But, just practice your fingering between the C and the F chord so that your fingers start to remember the pattern of the chords and where your fingers go. Because if you keep practicing it, eventually you don't have to think about it as much, and it becomes muscle memory. And you just remember where the chord is without having to look. I will put in the description a picture. So if you're more of a visual learner and you want to use the picture after this video to help you practice, it is a diagram of where your fingers go to make a C and an F chord. So the links for that will be in the description. You can use them, you can print them out and put them on your wall. If you don't have a printer, you can just look at them on your tablet or your iPad or your computer. And yeah, have a good time practicing, guys. Bye!